The trial of Private First Class Bradley Manning began June 3rd. The Crescent, Oklahoma native was arrested in 2010 after releasing reams of government information to the secret-sharing website WikiLeaks. Since then, Manning has been lauded as a freedom fighter and vilified as a traitor. To explain the court-martial proceedings, I spoke with federal prosecutor and military law professor Robert Gifford. Robert, Bradley Manning's case is a court-martial. How is that different from a civilian prosecution?
The court-martial is a federal prosecution, just like you would see in civilian court with federal cases. The differences are really not that much as the public may perceive. They do have the rules of evidence, the same rules of evidence that pretty much mirror the federal rules of evidence. He does have the right to attorney. He has the right to a case to be heard by a jury panel in this case. The procedures are very similar. The language, though, is a little bit different. They do talk a little bit of a different talk. The case, though, is heard by a military panel. The prosecutor is military, the judge is military, and the defense counsel is usually military, but the defense counsel can be civilian, as it is in this case.
This is supposed to last about 3 months. Is that unusual?
It is. It is. However, I will point out, though, that for a courts-martial and as for a federal case, that would be a little bit longer than normal. However, due to the nature of the case, it is a much higher profile case. The evidence is much more complex. So it's not always that unusual. While most cases might be resolved within a couple months from the time it's charged to the time of either a guilty plea or a finding of not guilty or to sentencing. In this case, because of the nature of the case and the number of motions that have been filed, the testimony that's involved, it is much more complex. So a complex case can last an extremely long time.
It's also been noted that it's unusual for a court-martial to begin so long after someone has initially been charged. That is unusual, isn't it?
It is. And again, you know, it's because of there's so many issues that have to be litigated before it goes to a jury panel. Because in any case, such as the cases with Timothy McVeigh and the Oklahoma City bombing, not a court-martial, but a civilian case, it took a long time to get there. The O.J. Simpson trial took a long time to get there because there were so many pretrial issues that had to be resolved.
Manning has pled guilty to several charges against him. How does that affect this particular proceeding?
In this case, the fact that he has pled guilty to that aspect is really irrelevant to the issue. He still has the constitutional right to contest those issues which he is presumed to have not done. He will still face sentencing on those issues. The jury panel doesn't really have to consider that, and they may be or they may not be told whether or not he's pled guilty to those other charges. I would expect that it's likely they will be, and sometimes that's a benefit to the defense, and sometimes it is not. Every case is so different. There's not a one-size-fits-all.
Manning has been charged with aiding the enemy. What does the prosecution have to prove?
Because of the nature of it, it's very complex. It's really, really hard because you have to establish, number one, what did he do and did he actually aid the enemy? It is an extremely high burden for the government to prove. The defense has a very strong case, of course, but not to comment on the merits of the case. But the government really has a heavy burden to show, basically to show that any allegations, did he actually aid the enemy? And in fact, in this day and age, our enemy is somewhere else. It's overseas. It's not somebody that we can easily subpoena into court.
What do you think is the appropriate defense strategy for someone like that in this kind of case?
In this kind of case, the defense strategy can be very broad, and I think as you see in civilian cases, it's almost the same as it would be in any civilian case. Basically, number one, the panel members are reminded that the government bears the burden in this case. It's also to show the fact that you can get to the person's state of mind. Is this what they intended, or is it just a misunderstanding? Both sides have very good cases, but the government does bear the burden, and they have to carry that proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Federal Prosecutor Robert Gifford, thank you for your insight.
Thank you very much.